Okay, so in lesson 21, we're doing more complex sprite movement. We're going to focus on combining the velocity blocks with the counter patterns today. So this is going to help us make a smoother experience, and it'll help simulate gravity as well. So we're going to dive into the first one where we were asked to make a prediction, and we're looking at the counter pattern being used with the velocity x property. Okay, before we did this, we used it to make or create movement. Today we have the velocity already, so we have the movement, but we're using a counter pattern with it. So what do we think is going to happen? Well, if we recall what the counter pattern does, this is saying Sprite 1's velocity x is going to get whatever the current velocity x is, and we're going to add 1/10 more each time the draw loop repeats. So it's going to speed and go faster and faster and appear to be accelerating. Okay, so we'll see that with the block. So in part 2, we're going to practice using it. We're going to look at a car that's moving across the screen, but it's going very slowly. So we're going to use the velocity x property with the counter pattern to change the sprite's speed during the program. So we're going to use a counter pattern with the velocity x block to make the car speed up. Okay, so right now the velocity is 2/10. Okay, we're going to do this in the draw loop. If we weren't sure, of course, we could do the show me where, and it'll tell us where to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and do it here. I'm going to go ahead and set the velocity x block, and we're changing the car's velocity. We're making it speed up, so I'm going to use the plus. Okay, so I'm going to say the car's velocity x gets the car's velocity x plus, I don't know, let's just say 1/10 for now. And again, it's appearing as it's accelerating or speeding up. So for the next one, similar, this time we're looking at the y velocity, so we're going to have it speed up as it falls down. Okay, and this is going to simulate gravity. And same as before, we're going to use it with the velocity y block, and we're going to use the counter pattern. Okay, so I'm going to drag the velocity y, I'm going to say it's the rock, and I'm just going to go and type it in this time, rock of velocity y plus, I don't know, 0 and 1/10. Okay, and of course we change the values if we want, but I'm happy with that. Okay, so again, we're just using the counter pattern with the velocity blocks. So in here, this is kind of the opposite. We're going to slow things down now. Okay, so the car is going to run to the water. You'll need to use the counter pattern to slow it down. So let's take a look at what happens. Okay, so the car is essentially going to run into the water. So we use the velocity x block with a counter pattern to slow it by 2500ths as it moves across the screen. Okay, so we're modifying the velocity x block. We're modifying the car, so I'm going to say car to velocity x minus 0 and 2500ths. We can also say plus negative 2500ths. Okay, so there we go. And unfortunately, it does go backwards. Okay, and we should have predicted that, right? Because it starts at 10 and then eventually it gets to 0, but it never is being told to stop, so it's going to keep decreasing until it's a negative value. All right, a couple practice problems, and excuse me for the noise outside. Let's go ahead and make the bubble rise faster and faster. So again, we're just using the velocity blocks again with the counter pattern. Okay, we're going to use the counter pattern, make the velocity y increase or move up more quickly. So same as before. Bubble dot velocity y equals bubble dot velocity y minus, and let's just go ahead and say 2/10. Okay, remember we have to decrease because on code.org the y value going up, like physically going up, is decreasing the y value. All right, we'll look at the second practice. Okay, we're going to slow down and reverse. So the cat is running past the mouse is running past the cat. So let's change it so the mouse slows down and stops before reaching the cat and then reverses direction. Okay, so we're going to look at the velocity x block. It's at -20, right? Note the velocity x block of the mouse sprite is at -20. Use the counter pattern to change it so that it approaches 0, then changes direction. Since it's a negative velocity, we'll want to actually increase it to slow it down. Okay, so again, because it's going towards the left, we're gonna increase the value to slow it down. So we're gonna say the velocity x is equal to mouse.velocity x plus, right? Plus to increase it. I don't know what number to use. Let's go and try 2. Okay, maybe a little bit too big. I'm gonna say 0 and 5/10. Maybe a little bit more, so +1. Okay, and there it goes. All right. Finally, on the assessment question, we're looking at a rock being thrown in the air, but it never falls down. We're going to go ahead and use the code we practiced to make the rock slow down and then fall, right? So we're using the counter pattern with the velocity block. Try different numbers to see what we like the best. Okay, since it's going up and down, we're modifying the y velocity. We're modifying the rock's velocity. And since I want to slow down, I can't do that. If I want to slow down, we're going to have to increase. So I'm going to say rock.velocity y plus, I don't know, let's try 0 and 1/10. Maybe a little bit bigger, 0 and 2/10. There you go. So it's stopping and then it falls down. All right, so that's the complex sprite movement. Essentially what that means is we're using the velocity blocks with the counter pattern.